Hello, BookTube. It's Friday, so it's time for Friday Reads. It's early evening, around 7 p.m. ish, or just before 7, I think. And it's been a sunny day, and I've had another very good week of reading. I don't think next week will be as numerous in the number of books because I've got a few other things that I need to do around here. So I'm starting to getting a little more energy, so I need to start cleaning up this place and organizing, reorganizing, and so forth. So I'm starting to do that, or at least fingers crossed I am. Last Friday, I had said I had started Earth Abides by George R. Stewart, and I finished this, and it's a reread. Um, and I thoroughly enjoyed it again. It's an interesting, sort of a premise that's sort of similar to now a virus, an outbreak of a virus. Basically decimates the human population. Over 99% of humans seem to have succumbed to it, and there's very few left. And the main character is Isherwood Williams, Ish, and he attributes his immunity to the virus to being bitten by a rattlesnake, and somehow the venom sort of counteracted the virus. And he's in search of sort of other peoples. He drives across the U.S. to New York, comes back. Basically, he's in California on the coast, and he goes to where his parents' house is. He's basically, by the sounds of it, he's a graduate student, and he was up in the mountains doing research. And so he does find another woman, and a few other people sort of gather around, and they sort of try to survive and prosper. And he's sort of default leader of the group, and their aim is to sort of have as many babies as possible to get more people. Uh, and there's ups and downs. It's an interesting, it's almost as if the author sort of said to himself, okay, well, you take 99.9% of the human population out of the equation. What will happen to the environment? What will happen to everything? And and interactions with people and so forth. The people that are left, what will happen? And he explores those. Some work out a little better than I think than others. It's a little questionable, a few things, but even so, it's just a brilliant book. And yeah, it's one of the best, I think, post-apocalyptic novels there is. And this week I have been reading quite a few post-apocalyptic novels. Just had a yen for them, and I've been looking around for other ones, and I like other older ones, I should say. And there's a number, but the one thing I did find online is people confuse post-apocalyptic to dystopian fiction. There's crossovers, and you could easily write both, and I'm sure people have, but there is a bit of a difference between a dystopian and post-apocalyptic. Um, but anyway, that was very good. These aren't really in order, I don't think. I forgot what order actually I read them in, but I reread again Day of the Triffids by John Win. Oh, sorry, I'll go back to this one. Uh, Earth Abides was written in, I think it was 1949, and Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham and it was written 1951, and it's another sort of post-apocalyptic novel, and it again is a reread for me. And on this reread, I sort of noticed a few quibbles that I had, but I just you put them aside. But it's like the premise basically is that well, there's two things. There's a plant called a Triffid that produces oil, but it also is sort of a man-eating plant. It's got a stinger on it that will kill people or any animal, and it eats the flesh. It will consume the flesh of animals, and they're actually mobile. They can move around, and potentially or possibly talk to each other. There's communication possibly between them, but and then they're on farms, well regulated, and the main sort of thing happens is there's a meteorite shower, or it's the Earth goes through the tail of a comet, com, comet, um, and but then by morning, everybody that watched it is blind. Every animal is blind. So this is sort of easy hunting ground for the Triffids, who then sort of escape their farms and attack people. And it starts out in London, um, with the main character, Bill Mason. He was in the hospital because he was stung in the eyes, and partially, well, blinded for the time by a Triffid, and he was in there for some operations. So he didn't watch the meteor shower that happened. And but he's in London, and all the population, barring a few, are blind, and it's usual sort of mob rule type thing. There's a little thing that I say quibble with it, because yeah, there's he talks about hundreds or thousands of people on the streets, but you think that everybody in London, there's millions, and I'm not sure how they disappear so quickly, the people, because it's like literally within 3 or 4 days, in less than a week. And the Triffids are only starting to sort of start their rampage, and there's a lot of people that commit suicide, as he talks about, because they can't handle this. So even you take half the population of London committing suicide, you still got millions left. So little problematic there, but it still works out. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then we move on to another fabulous one, John Christopher's The Death of Grass. This was written in 1952, I think it was. Yeah. If memory serves. It's hard to see dates in here. I think around 1952. John Christopher is a pseudonym. A pseudonym for Sam Yude, who actually I found out died just in 2012, so he was still alive quite recently. This is a Penguin edition. It has an introduction by Robert McFarlane, and John Christopher wrote. I read another one of his, another dystopia, post-apocalyptic. I almost did that. A post-apocalyptic novel, but this is sort of another one of my favorites, and it's a reread as well. And it's where there's a virus that kills grass. It starts out with rice in Asia, in China, and then it moves across the world and kills all grass. So tubers are okay, potatoes, beetroots, and so forth. But it's sort of like there's not enough food for people. Clearly, not enough food. So the main character, John Custance, I think it is, yeah. He and his family and a friend who's working for the government move or go north to John's brother's farm, which is in a valley that can be defended. And he's sort of been preparing for the eventuality of this. And but the government knows that they can't feed everybody, so they cordon off the main cities like London, Manchester, and so forth, and nuke them. That was the plan. But then they wind up, scarping. They leave the royal family, the government. They all leave to, United States and Canada. But yeah, so it's just they've got to travel now north and meet with mobs that are starving, and it's sort of survival, and which means killing for food, if need be, and defending themselves. So it's that kind of thing of going into sort of um, that kind of mode and traveling north. It's a fabulous, fabulous book. And another one, again, as I say, by John Christopher. I'd sort of forgot I had this because it's part of the Penguin. What do they call it? Penguin Worlds. There was a bunch of them. I bought them several years ago. It was a package. They were very cheap. I think at a remainder place, probably about £1 each. And there were several that sounded interesting. And this one is The World in Winter by John Christopher. And this was published in 1962. And instead of viruses, it's the sun has diminished output of radiation. So that means a new ice age is coming. So the northern hemisphere freezes. And so everybody, or people that can, move south. In the United States, North America, they move to South America. And mostly in Europe, a lot of them move to Africa. And especially the British, they move to former British colonial countries. And the country that the main character goes to is Nigeria. And it's the shoe's on the other foot. Now it's sort of white people are in the minority and are not treated well. They're treated as non-white people have been treated. So it's an interesting switch of things, and then they go back to England. It's a bit of there's a love story, well, sort of love story. I'm not quite sure if it's love, but with it, but it's quite good. But again, there's a little, like the Death of Grass and a lot of these, you sort of the depiction of people, the characters, are not maybe quite fully realized and real. I question a lot of it, but again, it's just a fun read and enjoyable. So that was another one, and we continue on with some crime, and this is well, it's a series of books that's by Collins. It's the Collins Crime Club, and it says the Detective Story Club, as it shows there. I can see it, The Man with the Gun. And it says here, it's the Detective Story Club was launched in 1929 to publish the best detective mystery stories chosen for you by a select committee of experts. That's a quotation. Combing classic bestsellers from the last half century with the rising stars of the time, and printed with sensational new jacket paintings, which they're fabulous. This forerunner to Collins' famous crime club was home to some of the world's most ingenious crime writers and the genre's most significant novels. And it's sort of like it's books that influenced the golden age of crime fiction. And I've got about 15 or 18 of them. there might be that many more. But this one is Called Back by Hugh Conway, and it was written in it says 1893, and then published in the Crime Club in 1929. But the character refers to war. Like I think he's referring to First World War, the World War. So at some point in it, so that must have been rewritten in 1929. It's basically I won't go into too much detail with spoilers for this, but it's the character is blind and he actually stumbles onto a murder, and then it's sort of several years later. Well, there's a lot of coincidences, a little too much, but you go with the flow again with things. And it was just this one I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the style of writing, and I enjoyed the story to go along with it. So that was fabulous. Another one from the Collins Crime Club here is, or the Detective Club, is the Paddington Mystery by John Rode, uh, who was a pseudonym of Cecil John Charles Street. He was born in 1884, and he actually he was one of the founding members of the Detective Club in London, and he brought in the skull, Eric, the skull that is used in initiations for crime writers. And it was weird because I started reading this and I realized I knew the story. I thought I'd read this before, but I didn't because the book was just it hadn't been read. So I don't know where or how, and I figured, okay, well, is it similar to something else? No, I couldn't think of anything. I just it's bugged me because, and I thought, well, maybe it was a film. I couldn't find a film that was based on it. Um, but anyway, it's sort of a neat little story, and this whole series has little introductions in the beginning, specific usually to the author, but it gives sometimes more background to detective fiction or crime fiction, mysteries, whatever, in themselves, and those are really good. It'd be like nice to have them all collected in a volume by themselves. But this year, John Rode, this is the first Lancelot Priestley's novel, which wound up to be, I think, 70 some, and he wrote under different pseudonyms and wrote, I think, about 170 books, 150 to 170 books in total. So it's another really good one. And the last one that I read, so this is 7 books this week. It's very slim book. It's The Artificial Silk Girl, Irmgard Kuhn. It's set in like 1931, Germany, Berlin. It's a young woman that wants to be sort of a movie star, goes to does some acting in the sort of provinces in a sense, and then goes to Berlin, and she doesn't fare too well. And it's written as sort of her diary. She's writing her story as it goes along. I didn't care for it. Didn't like the person at all, and I didn't like sort of. And there was really I thought there'd be a little more stuff like about regarding film industry and stuff like that, but nothing at all. Nothing at all, other than a few names, and I think Ufa may have been mentioned, but at that time I think it would have been sort of on its last legs to a certain extent. Fritz Lang bankrupted Ufa with Metropolis. But yeah, no, that was the last one. So, but yeah, that's pretty good reading this week. Let's see here. Can we get these? Yeah, there we go. That's my reading this week. Next week, I'm going to be doing. Well, I'm going to start this tonight. is The House Without a Key, a Charlie Chan mystery. This is the first Charlie Chan novels. I think about 6 or 8 of them. I do want to get them all. And again, I like these imprint of Chicago Review Press, and I like the covers. And they're just really good paperback. They're pretty solid too. Another post-apocalyptic reread is Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller Jr. It's post-apocalyptic because it is after, but it's not talking so much about the apocalypse that started it. Also, too, I'm gonna read Shane. It's a novelization. Well, it's the novel of which the Alan Ladd and Jean Arthur film was based on. So that's my next film that I'll be doing. It's a short one. It looks like it's basically a juvenile, but we'll see. I've not read it before. And at least, I'm sure, another one of these detective clubs. A Voice Like Velvet by Donald Henderson. So I'll be doing these. So this is only 4 this coming week. If I can read more, I'll do so. But as I say, I'm going to try to spend some of my time sort of organizing things and starting to move stuff around here and try to get things in ship shape. But anyway, that's it, booktube for this week. Tomorrow I will be back with the Uninvited book to film, and I will see you then. Take care, booktube.